ABC 10 News at 7 starts now.
The difference between us being in red and purple tier this week was 2 cases.
San Diego County right on the edge of falling into the most restrictive coronavirus tier. Good evening, I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo has the stern warning from county leaders today.
Dodging a bullet is how County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher described San Diego staying in the red tier this week versus moving into the purple, more restrictive tier. County officials say what helped San Diego stay in that red tier was the county's testing efforts, giving the county an adjusted case rate of 7.0. But even then, officials say we are just too close to purple. There was some good news. The county's health equity metric improved, meaning underserved and most affected communities are slowly doing better. The county says there isn't one specific outbreak or event that's leading to these high case numbers.
What's happening is people are lowering their guards, going back to how they functioned before COVID-19.
The county is also focusing their attention on Election Day, encouraging people to fill out their mail-in ballots, but also saying that if people are going to vote in person, they must follow all guidelines and have patience.
Let me just say the election is November 3rd. I do not want to be standing here with Dr. Wooten 14 days later talking about Election Day as a statistic.
It's still too early to know if San Diego will stay in the red tier next week, but officials say it's up to San Diegans to follow all health guidelines and keep their guard up to avoid moving backwards. Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
Leaders from Southern California's largest theme parks say the governor's new guidelines could keep them closed potentially for months. Today, the president of Legoland said the guidelines don't make sense, especially considering stadiums and indoor malls can open sooner.
Theme parks create a 100% controlled environment with temperature checks for all guests, mask enforcement, increased sanitization protocols, social distancing, measures that far exceed most daily life experiences and any other leisure activities.
The new guidelines block larger theme parks from reopening at 25% capacity until their counties reach the state's least restrictive tier. San Diego and Orange counties are 2 tiers away, while LA is still in the state's most restrictive tier.
And here are the latest numbers. The county reported 263 new cases today. That brings our total to 53,200. There were also 6 deaths, bringing that total to 863. An appeals court is ordering San Quentin to cut its population by more than 50% because of the pandemic. The prison had one of the worst outbreaks in the country with 28 deaths and 2,200 infections. If San Quentin officials don't appeal that decision, the prison will have to parole or transfer about 1,100 of their inmates. Stay on top of any new developments with coronavirus by downloading the 10 News app. A free version is available in the App Store.
Investigators were back out in Rancho Penasquitos today, clearing out a big illegal marijuana grow. As we first reported yesterday, more than 2,000 marijuana plants were removed. Today, a secondary grow was found, and DEA officials tell our Mimi Alcala the cannabis black market is a growing problem here.
It's very quiet normally.
But Wednesday was anything but quiet as authorities lifted more than 2,000 marijuana plants out of Rancho Penasquitos.
It's good that they're taking care of all this stuff.
The illegal grow was found when police were responding to reports of a homeless encampment near a popular trail in the Del Mar Mesa Preserve.
In a city area, to have an outdoor grow of this magnitude is extremely uncommon. We see these frequently in the backcountry.
Sergeant Mark Knierim is the group supervisor of the DEA Narcotics Task Force Marijuana Eradication Team. He asked us not to show his face, but says during the investigation they discovered a second grow location.
We found a secondary area. Another 50 plants were growing there. And then we found a processing area. Based on what we've seen historically, I would definitely say this was most likely related to a cartel.
While recreational marijuana use is legal in California, the high taxes, permits, and fees for legal dispensaries may sway some people to break the rules.
A black market has been created because of that. It is absolutely thriving in San Diego County.
This year alone, he says they discovered 10 illegal outdoor grows and more than 50 illegal indoor operations. And while charges related to marijuana are typically misdemeanors in California, he says the environmental impacts with grows like this can lead to felonies.
In this particular situation, we had some extreme environmental issues. There was a lot of garbage that was down in the canyon. There was people that were living there.
He says other issues typically include removing native plants, using harmful pesticides, and illegal fertilizers. Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
During today's investigation, the DEA team also discovered what they estimate to be about 300 to 500 pounds of processed marijuana ready to be distributed. So far, they've not located the people responsible.
A former La Jolla Country Day school teacher who had sex with a student is getting probation. Today, a judge sentenced Jonathan Sanmartino to probation and community service. The judge also ordered him to never teach again. Sanmartino pleaded guilty to having a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old female student over several months in 2016. The 37-year-old will not have to register as a sex offender.
A Mira Mesa dentist who billed insurance companies for 800 root canals that she never did is going to prison. April Ambrosio was sentenced to 6 years in prison and ordered to pay $405,000 in restitution. In one case, the DA says Ambrosio billed for more than 100 root canals from one family of 4. She pleaded guilty to insurance fraud earlier this year.
As you saw on World News tonight, Pope Francis has become the first pope to openly support same-sex civil unions. A newly released documentary shows him advocating for the LGBT community. But as our ABC 10 News reporter Leah Pizzetti shows us why some local Catholic leaders are downplaying the significance.
For the first time ever,
Pope Francis is willing to recognize civil unions.
A Catholic pope is publicly endorsing same-sex civil unions. In a documentary that just debuted during the Rome Film Festival, Pope Francis says, quote, homosexual people have the right to be a family. They are children of God. Going on to say, what we have to have is a civil union of law. That way they are legally covered. Here in San Diego,
it's one of those things where I think that it sounds bigger than it is.
Kevin Eckery with the Catholic Diocese of San Diego says the Pope's statement addresses the legal aspect of a civil union, but does not change anything about the sacrament of marriage, which the church says is only between a man and a woman.
Marriage has two different aspects to it. You've got the legal aspect, which is, we have a marriage license from the state of California, and the religious aspect.
He says today's message matches the Pope's previous statements of loving everyone.
Everybody is deserving of both respect and God's love. And he reminds us of that every day.
Patrick Ambrosio, a leader in the San Diego gay and Catholic community, says this might not impact California, but could mean change for other parts of the world.
It's very different in every state, and we're just lucky to be in California, where it's a little bit easier to work with that.
And he says for him, it does mean more than legalities. This could lead to progress towards someday receiving the sacrament of marriage.
Seeing this on the news today is such a great expose for the civil liberty, a civil union, because it's the first step in getting to that stage.
Saying statements like this give him hope for the future. Leah Pizzetti, ABC 10 News.
Pope Francis has openly supported the gay community for years. In 2013, he was asked about an openly gay priest and said, "Who am I to judge?" He has also ministered to gay and transsexual prostitutes.
A standoff has now been going on for more than 16 hours in City Heights. A domestic violence suspect has been sitting on the roof of an apartment building on 35th Street near Polk since 2:30 a.m. Police say the man ran up there after the mother of his child called 911 to say he had broken into her home on Wilson Avenue. He has thrown tiles off the building, so police are keeping the area clear as a precaution.